you don't want to be adding to any of these people's plates. It's not all about you. It's about them. How can you make them like really want to work with you? And that's honestly like more than half the battle.
You're listening to Talk Doc to Me, a podcast dedicated to help documentary filmmakers thrive. I'm your host and fellow filmmaker, Leah de Leon, and today's guest is Anna Wilder Burns. Anna grew up on the coast of Maine. She was training as a junior Olympic gymnast when she found a love for making videos of her team on a GoPro. Now she is an award-winning cinematographer and director focused on impactful stories of athletes, adventurers, and activists. She's worked for brands including Nike, The North Face, and Team USA. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so let's dive in. I want to talk about the recent short documentary that you co-directed with a friend of mine, Jordan Romero. She was #1 guest on season 1. And I want to ask you, what is the film about? And then we can talk about specifics.
This film, it follows the journey of a professional surfer. Her name's Becca Speak, as she kind of fights her way back from her most recent traumatic brain injury. She's had quite a few throughout her life, but this most recent one was pretty gnarly, where she temporarily lost her ability to speak. It's a comeback film, but it's also just like a self-discovery portrait and just an exploration of why we do the things we do. And it's a really vulnerable look into kind of how serious TBIs are. So we're really proud of it, really excited to finally start showing it to people.
Amazing. And for those that don't know, what is TBI?
TBI is the acronym for traumatic brain injury, so a concussion.
And let's talk about your role on this film. So you co-directed it and you also shot it. Can you talk about like the beginning process of deciding? You have a story idea, maybe you even have access, maybe you're talking to one other person like, hey, do you want to do this with me? Maybe you're talking with Jordan. How do you decide what role is good for you in a film? And we can use Beyond Normal as the example.
Yeah, totally. So I knew Becca through a mutual friend, and I reached out to her through that. Like, Jordan and I had done one film together before, and we were really amped to do another one. We had a great time and just loved collaborating. So I had kind of stumbled upon her story through some mutual friends back home, because she's also from the New England area. And I reached out. I think we texted a little, and then we all hopped on a Zoom call, me, Jordan, and Becca, just kind of like a vibe check. And then once we decided we were going to like go forward and make the film, Jordan and I, on our previous one, had kind of just done everything. Like, we both shot, it was like a really nice flow, honestly. Like, it didn't feel like we were ever like stepping on each other's toes. But I think because this film felt like a little bit bigger, we both kind of sat down and were like, okay, like, what are each of us like really interested in diving into for this film? And like, where can we delegate a little bit more so that we both feel supported and we can just make the best film we can? And so I've always been a little bit, as a director, I've always kind of leaned more towards the DP side of things. And I think she's kind of more leaned in like the EP, like producer story. She also is like a really talented shooter, but I think just like the day-to-day like gear management, picking lenses, like all that stuff, like I just felt more called to, and she was kind of more called to like the talent. Like, she would do our interviews, most of our interview questions, and like kind of that sort of stuff.
You had this conversation like ahead of time before you filmed
Yes.
anything. You sat down across from each other and you're like, what are our strengths?
Yeah.
Where can we, like you said, like delegate? I think that's really smart.
Yeah. And we kind of like looked at like what the process we thought would look like. And we're like, okay, what would be like the best case situation for this? And yeah, we kind of landed on me. We were co-directing, but I kind of took on more of the DP role, even though she still shot on it like quite a bit. And then she would kind of take on the more like story and producer role for our shoots. So what that looks like on set is like we would show up for like an interview day, for like our master interview, for example. She was prepping all the questions, I was prepping all the gear, and then we got there and like I was in charge of like gear setup and light and like working with our gaffer and getting all of that stuff dialed, and she was kind of hanging with Becca, getting her ready to go, and then she would run the interview. And the other reason I think that worked really well as co-directors is because like in those interviews, she'd be asking the questions and I'd be kind of listening for the story, like, here's what we missed. Because I think when you're in an interview, a lot of times I think you get so like wrapped up in it, you can kind of get to the end and be like, shoot, like I should have gotten this, or like, so I think that was really helpful. Kind of having two ears that were in the story as well, in the interviews, and not just like a DP who's like just worried about the visuals. It was like I was worried about the visuals, but once I had that locked in and felt really good, I then kind of switched my brain to supporting her and seeing like how I could help facilitate the interview and like think of follow-up questions so that she didn't have to be doing that dance in her brain that we all do. So yeah, I think it worked really well.
Nice. And so talking about the director DP relationship, I think a lot of documentary filmmakers can relate to the fact that a lot of directors are shooters as well because of filming in like sensitive situations, or, you know, just, I mean, even before the pandemic, but just keeping a very small crew for sensitivity's sake. In Beyond Normal, you film in doctor's appointments, you film in like a mental health retreat, and, you know, some areas that are definitely kind of tricky to navigate. Can you describe some of those scenes? We can start with like the doctor appointment. I think a lot of people filming with athletes or just any health journey in general, filming in hospitals is interesting. So can you talk about how you approach that?
Whenever you're going into a doc, or at least in my experience, I think especially working with athletes, a lot of times you can't have a big crew, and you shouldn't have a big crew, because I think the more people you add, the more on edge everybody gets. And so going into some of those situations like doctor's appointments and our brain health retreat, et cetera, we definitely were letting things unfold. And I think as a doc director DP, a lot of times the best decisions you can make is to just like step back and not interfere and not direct anything. And like me and Jordan were kind of like had like things like we were pointing, you get like pointing there, like, but honestly, like most of those situations we were like completely silent for like the whole time.
Was it a one camera setup? Like in
Yes.
like the doctor's appointment, was it a one camera setup?
Yeah. And I think again, like that was kind of a decision we made going in. Like we did both have access to cameras, but I didn't want to overwhelm like too many cameras in that situation. And then also I think having Jordan looking around at what's happening while I can be locked in on what I'm shooting, and then have her tap me on the shoulder and like get something else. That's kind of what worked best for us in those scenarios. And yeah, honestly, we really weren't directing anything that was happening in front of us. It was just capturing what was already there.
And how did you navigate getting access and trust from like the doctor or from, you know, the person that had a conversation with Becca at the retreat? How did you navigate building trust with those people?
Yeah. Funnily enough, the doctor's office was really chill. I think because we had such a good relationship with Becca, and this place she was going to was really well known for treating athletes and like action sports athletes, like skiers, surfers, mountain biking, etc. I think maybe they were kind of used to it, and they had cameras in there before. So that was honestly like, that was just a phone call ahead of time being like, can we come? And they were like, yes, we'll sign waivers. Or like we didn't get anybody in the background. We just had the doctor's office sign a release form. And again, Jordan was in charge of like getting that done while I was like shooting with Becca sometimes. So that relationship was really helpful there. With Love Your Brain, we were having some conversations with them like pretty early on about just being like our impact partner on the film. If you're not familiar with Love Your Brain, they are a foundation started by Adam and Kevin Pierce, and you might have seen the crash reel. It won Sundance. I don't know what year, but it's an incredible feature doc about an Olympic snowboarder who hits his head and changes him and his family's life. And they started this like amazing foundation supporting people with TBIs with like retreats and education and all this stuff. So we were having conversations really early with them about just getting involved as our impact partner, because we wanted this film to go further than just be seen. We wanted to be able to raise funds and raise awareness for and point people in a direction. So those early Zoom calls, we were just kind of like thinking of how we could integrate them into the film. And I think they were like, well, having her at one of our retreats would be kind of a really natural integration. So that retreat was planned as like part of the film, as part of that relationship. But I think they were very like guarded, obviously, about how we capture it and like letting cameras in at all. They kind of were saying like they don't usually let people come in with cameras. And if they do, it's like very restrictive. From the get-go, we just kind of explained to them like our philosophy and thought process behind the film and like our approach.
Did you share like a deck at this point, or like it's a couple of, you know, having something visual, I feel like always helps and it makes it real. Did you do that with them?
Yeah, so we had a deck, we had a sizzle that we shared with them. We also shared with them like here's our philosophy behind going into situations like this, and here's how we capture things, like kind of assuring them like we aren't the type to like come in and be like in your face. Like we're very fly on the wall. Like you won't know we're there kind of thing. Like you will, but you won't. So I think just assuring them of all of that kind of set us up for success, and they were stoked to have us there. And kind of, and also being there, they really wanted us to like participate. So like the first day I like didn't even have my camera out. I was actually like participating in the activities. Like they had like meditations and stuff and partner stuff. And like I was like participating with Becca and with the other people just to like get acclimated. I think that helped a lot too. And so by the end, honestly, like I made so many friends and like they were all so amazing. And yeah, could not say enough positive things about them.
Yeah, I think the impact partnership is super interesting. I think a lot of us make films with the idea in mind that, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if I could partner with some sort of organization that kind of stands for X, Y, and Z, but maybe they're unsure of how to reach out to them, especially, you know, as a first-time filmmaker, they might feel like, oh, well, I don't even have the film ready yet. Like, I don't know where it's going to end up. Like, I don't know if it's going to get a distribution deal. Like, what kind of conversation did you have with them? And do you have any tips for people trying to land like an impact partner early on in the filmmaking process?
With a lot of nonprofits, they're very open because it's like it can only help. So I think just reaching out with like at least your ducks in a row, like story wise, like make sure you have a really clear idea of what you're doing, and so that you can tell someone else. Because if someone gets a lot of emails every day, it's like finding funding. They want to know the who, what, when, where, and why. And I think coming with an idea maybe, but also open-minded to maybe what they are interested in. So like I think with Love Your Brain, we were like, here's what we're thinking, but we're also open to like whatever you guys want, whatever will work really well for you. Like we want this to obviously be beneficial for you. That's like the whole point. So yeah, just open-minded and stoked for whatever they're interested in working with you on.
What is the promise or what is the ask when you're reaching out at that point? Like
Gotcha.
How do you articulate that? Like, hey, I have this film. I think it could be helpful to you. Like, how do you like make it a real relationship? Or how do you like, what kind of, is there like a, you know, an MOU, like a memorandum of understanding of like, you give me access to this event, or, you know, I'll show you a cut of the film when it's done, and maybe if you like it, you will show it to your audience, or like how do you kind of navigate their audience?
Yeah.
And like make it something tangible.
Yeah. So I think with Love Your Brain, they're just like a very big pillar in like the brain health community. And we really wanted to, like for our film, we wanted people to see it that we're also suffering from what Becca's suffering, like kind of give, so that people can see it and maybe take something from it. So like tapping into Love Your Brain's audience was a big goal for us. And they just have a very big voice in the community. So that was kind of what we wanted out of the relationship, was like just to get it in front of more eyes of people that it could impact. And then also hopefully like raise some money for them at screenings. And then they suggested involving Becca in their retreat. I think we went in being like, whatever you want. We didn't really know what the options were. And they were like, okay, we'd actually like really be only interested in this if like we could showcase our retreats. And we were kind of like, okay, sure. Like, didn't really know like what that looked like. And then it ended up actually being like, I think the most impactful part of the film. And we kind of worked out an arrangement with them where it's like, okay, we'll give you cut downs of the retreats that you guys can use on like your things to post. Like once the film comes out, like they can post an Instagram reel of like Becca at the retreat as like a specific kind of trailer for the film. They'll have a presence at our screenings. Like we'll do raffles and stuff to raise money for them. We'll be like tagging them in all of our socials and stuff. Like they're kind of just integrating them into all of the release stuff. And then we got access to this amazing retreat with them, and they were really open and vulnerable with what they were able to share.
Making sure it's like mutually beneficial, you know?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Okay, yes, I want to be able to tap into your audience, but what can we provide to you? And I feel like providing like cut downs or providing like footage is always something handy to put in your back pocket, because it's like you're already filming this. You don't know what actually is going to end up in the film. So I feel like that's a really good kind of like selling point and way to negotiate with people is, hey, like while we're doing this thing, whether it's like a road trip or you know, whatever it is, like, yeah, maybe I can show you a couple of clips for your specific brand, but I'm still doing, you know, my original documentary idea.
Exactly.
What about filming the invisible? I think with filming with Becca, she has, you know, a brain injury. It's not, you know, we do see her like with a helmet. We do see her like trying different things on at the doctor's. But it's also a very internal journey that she's going on. How did you and Jordan like creatively think about how to show like what she was going through?
Yeah, it kind of evolved like as the film was happening. Like we honestly tried like quite a few things that just did not work.
What were some of those things?
We have so much like VO of her kind of like taking us inside her head. And we tried like a journal motif throughout the film, which did not work. Like we honestly tried a lot that ended up being like, it either felt like a little bit cheesy or it felt like kind of like reenactment-y, which we didn't like. And so it was honestly hard. I think one of the things artistically that I love about the film is our like kind of experimental like blue hour. It's in the intro and then sprinkled a little bit throughout. I think that was kind of a motif we used to like get into like the darkness, and we had some really cool shots of her like grabbing her head that's like all like really experimental and like artsy, and that stuff we did a lot of like mood boarding ahead of time through like photography and stuff. So yeah, it was definitely not easy, and we have a ton of like really cool experimental footage that just like didn't work, but I think that sort of dark blue hour vibe for our intro and kind of the more in her head moments of the film was helpful for us, and I really liked how that turned out. And then I think as far as just like tracking her injury, we were lucky that she was really good at like self-capture and also just like very vulnerable in general on like what she would allow to be filmed, which I think just like helps. I think it helped getting like shots of her like really struggling. I think really contextualizes these injuries in the film versus kind of like, because it is invisible, but I think seeing her struggle and like the fact that she was able to let us film that, I think really helps kind of hammer home like what's going on. At the end of the day, like you're right, like we're not going to be able to get shots of a broken bone or like I don't know, we're not going to be able to get shots of like something looking like that off, but I think you can really feel it from her because of her vulnerability, and I think shooting that we were able to kind of get the full, at least like I think some of the scope of how it feels.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
Yeah. And you mentioned mood boards. How do you define a mood board, and how do you use it before set, and how do you use it during set?
Jordan and I just did like a collaborative Pinterest board for this one. Sometimes I'll like pull them off and like make a pretty like collage, but this one we just did like Pinterest. And I don't really we pulled a little bit from other films, but I actually tend to get most of my inspiration for shooting through photography. It just allows for more freedom of creativity, like for you personally. If you're like just like, if you're basing something off of a still image, I think it's a lot easier to put your own spin on it than if you're just like, I like this shot, let's do this shot. So that's beforehand, like we did just like a bunch of Pinteresting. And before each shoot, we'd kind of like revisit it and be like, okay, what do we think we can get in this situation? Because some of our shoots were verite stuff. Some were like our more artsy stuff. And then on set, I just like I'll have screenshots on my phone if like I need inspiration, but I think usually once I'm on set, like it's kind of just like flows.
Mm-hmm.
But I always kind of have those saved to like go back to if I'm like having a moment where I'm like, what do we do next? I'll just be like, oh, let's look at this thing and see if we can like strike anything. So I love mood boards. It's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any like pre-production rituals or like either like to start out the day or end the day?
Something for after. I always offload my footage obviously right when I get home, but I'll look through it as well. Like I usually am like looking at my footage like as soon as I get home. Like before I've even like gotten a drink of water. Like I'll like plug in my card and start looking at the footage. And I feel like it's a good thing because it means I'm like excited about it. I've never been the person that like, even when I'm taking photos, like I never wait to edit them. Like I'm editing them that night. Like people are always like, how did you send those to me so fast? And I'm like, I'm just crazy. But yeah, I always am looking at stuff pretty much immediately. And that helped us out with Beyond Normal a lot because we were shooting for such a long period of time and like had just so much media that I think looking and like pulling at least like top line selects at the end of every day was really helpful when we got to the edit, because even though our production partner was editing the film and like they pulled their own selects and everything, like I had and Jordan had a copy of like all the footage with our top line selects so that like if someone was editing a scene and then we were like, oh wait, there's like a shot I remember like I loved that didn't make it in, like I could easily be like, it's this clip name, this clip like from here to here, like blah blah blah. So yeah.
I feel you on that. How long was production from like start to finish?
Like 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
It was a long one.
Yeah. The while it's top of mind, just like putting selects together, I think is huge. I think it's something that I'm like we're dealing with right now with our feature that like was filmed across like about a year, but it's just so much footage, and a lot of times you're so tired at the end of the day that like the last thing you can do is like make a string out. But now I realize how important it is because your brain just forgets. Like you are not going to remember that cool thing like that.
Yeah.
You are not going to remember that.
Yeah. And it's like think about it, like at the end of every day, if you just have like, I don't know, let's say 1 terabyte of, and I'm saying this is because I'm a red shooter. So like that's like that's like a day is like 1 terabyte, which is like so bad. But like think about like pulling selects on that on like say 3 hours of footage versus like getting to the end of a production and you have to pull selects on like 30 hours of footage all at once. Like I think it's the way to go. Do it as you go.
Love it.
Chip away at it.
Okay, so let's talk about funding. You have this beautiful idea, you have Becca's trust, but how do you make it happen? How do you raise money? Can you talk about your funding situation for this film?
Yeah. So I think going into this, we envisioned it as a branded piece, and we honestly, all the feedback we got from like peers and stuff, like when we were making the materials, is like, oh my god, this is like an amazing story, like this will be no problem funding. I mean, obviously it's always like a little bit hard, but like we really were feeling pretty confident about being able to get it funded, and we were kind of going in with the goal of like 75 to 100K would be like our dream. And we had a really hard time. And we had like a gorgeous pitch deck. We had a gorgeous sizzle. We had tons of brand contacts. Becca had obviously a lot of sponsors that we were able to like contact directly. But I think just like the economic climate right now is like really tough in surfing specifically. There was like all the buyouts happening like right around that time. There's a lot of shifting going on with like the big surf brands. And so we weren't able to, we kind of went in hoping we would be able to get like a title sponsor that was just like, they would pay for the film. It would then go on their like YouTube channel kind of thing. And we weren't able to get that.
And how many brands did you reach out to? Like when did you say like, it's not happening?
We started filming stuff like very lightly, like just like kind of getting to know Becca, that sort of stuff, in like January of 2022. And then we kind of got hooked up with our production partner like 2 months later or so. And I think for the next like 6 months, we hit funding like really hard. We were able to raise 20K, which for a 2-year production of a 30-minute film is like not a lot. But But we're so grateful to like these small surf brands that supported us. Like they are the homies, and yeah, just like could not be more of a fan of our people at Dry Robe, Park It, and Salt Gypsy for supporting us. But yeah, we just hit it really hard. We went for kind of our top line, like those title sponsors that we were hoping for. And we had some really great calls and like people that were really interested, like multiple meetings. And then I think, again, it's just all about timing. And I think our timing was just off because all these marketing people were really interested, but they were just like, oh, we just can't, like our budget just got cut, or this just happened. And it would just like kind of fizzle out. So it was a bummer, but we still felt just like super passionate about the film. And luckily Becca was local-ish. She lives in New England where I'm from, or lived. And then she ended up moving halfway through production out to Encinitas. So she's only like 2 hours away from me and like 3 from Jordan. So it was a cheaper film to make because we owned gear. We had all the resources. And we had like a little bit of support, but definitely was not a big budget production, but we were really passionate about it, and we loved Becca and we loved the story, and we made it happen. But so we were able to pull together a little bit of funding from 3 pretty smaller scale surf brands that were freaking awesome and believed in it. But yeah, goes to show that like you see a film on a screen and like it seems like such a big thing that these people like had a lot of funding for, but we did not.
It's a grind. Yeah. But a lot of people will say like, wow, $20,000, that's amazing. Like, what kind of advice do you have for landing brand partnerships for films in this process?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it all starts with your creative. Your pitch deck and your sizzle has to be clear and pretty and easy to digest. Like you have to think like people who work at either brands or even if you're going like big to like streamers and stuff, like they get so many emails a day. If they get your email and with a quick scan, they don't really know what you're emailing them about, they're going to ignore it. So I think just starting out, your first email has to be like very clear. Hi, I'm this person. I'm a filmmaker. I'm doing this thing about this person. We're looking for partners. And then Jordan actually taught me this, which is always ending it with like, instead of, do you want to hop on a call? She's always like, what time next week can you hop on a call to discuss? Which I think works. Like it always it seems to hook them a little better. But and including in that email, a link to your sizzle and your pitch deck. So that everything's in one place. It's organized. It's clean. That's your first email. I think if you get a reply and they want to set up a call, perfect. Then you have your in and you can kind of take it from there on a Zoom. If they don't respond, I usually will give it like 2 follow-ups, kind of spaced out over a week, being like, hey, just following up on this. Hey, just following up on this again. And then I sometimes will throw a Hail Mary like a month later, just like, why not? If I get to like 3 pokes and there's nothing, then I kind of move on. But I think also having like, it helps to have like warm contacts or like a warm email, I think is called in the businessy world, where like, for example,
somebody knows someone else and then they introduce you.
Yeah, and like Jordan and I have both like worked in the outdoor industry, so we had like a few contacts at different places. She already like knew the people at Park It, so we were able to like get in a little easier there. Becca had some contacts at some brands, so it was a mixed bag. But then we also like did cold reach out to a few and had some luck. So
yeah, and then when you get on that call, they see your deck, they see your sizzle, they're like, wow, that's cool. This is like a really cool doc. Like, what do you want from me? Like, how can I help you? Or like, how is this going to help my brand? How did you approach that and convincing these brands that it was worth their investment?
For the initial email, every once in a while, for some brands, we did this where we would like research kind of their brand ethos, like whether it's on their website or whatever, like kind of, you always give like, we think this could be a great fit for blank because either you're a leader in the surf industry and this is an issue at the forefront, or You have a commitment to telling women's stories. Like you're a women's brand. This is an all-female product, like, or not, it wasn't all female, but like this is a female-led production about like a young woman. Kind of like finding that through line, because honestly, like if you're going to partner with a brand, like that should be there. Like you shouldn't just be like throwing it somewhere that it doesn't make sense. And like that's how you're going to win those pitches, is like it needs to make sense for them. So I think finding that ahead of time, and it's just like, it's one sentence like in the email. Again, like you don't want the email to be long. So I think that helps. And then on the Zoom, I think we usually opened it up by just kind of giving like a blurb, like a very top line, like I know you probably saw the deck, but like we're super excited to chat with you. Here's who I am. Just kind of put a face to the name, like build that like relationship, small talk, that kind of stuff. And then kind of jump in with like, I like to kind of throw it to them as like, did you look through the deck and do you have any questions for us? And then they'll usually have at least a starter question, and that kind of gets
or even like, why did you say yes to a meeting? I think that's always a really interesting question to ask people.
I might start using that.
yeah, because even like when I reach out, like when creatives randomly like reach out, I'm like, oh, like what about my work made you reach out, or what compelled you to reach out to me? It's a really simple question, but a lot of times people have an answer to it, and it'll kind of tell you like what it was. Either like, oh, I knew Becca, or oh my gosh, my brother had a brain injury. Like you can kind of get to like exactly what it was that made them say yes. Mm-hmm. So I think that's always a good question to ask.
Yeah. And then like, as far as like the money thing, because like, at the end of the day, like this conversation is happening because we need money. And like, we want to provide value to your brand in exchange for financial support.
Do you have like options, or you're like, we're trying to raise $100,000. Like, what is feasible for you? Or do you have like a little menu that people can say, oh, well, I can afford $5,000. Like, what does that get me?
Exactly. So we went in with exactly that. I think at first, for our first couple, like where we were chasing our like top line sponsors, we didn't include the menu because we were just kind of looking for like a main like title sponsor to work with. But then once we started targeting these like smaller brands, we did include the menu, or like we call it like our packages, in the initial email, because we just didn't want to waste their time. Like if they don't have the budget for a minimum, because we did have a minimum commitment. If they didn't have the budget for that, then like we don't want to waste either of our time. So we would include that. We'd be like, here's our partner packages, take a look. But we also made sure to say like, these are fully customizable to like your brand. This is just kind of like the scope and like what we're looking at. So we had, I think, a 5K level and a 10K level and a 15 or 20. And all of our partners were kind of in the like 5 to 10 range. And like one of them, we ended up like customizing to like an $8,000 level where they got like certain things, but they didn't feel like they needed these other deliverables. So we kind of outlined like, I off the top of my head, our 5K one was like, you'd get rights and access to the trailer. We would make you... we would give you product placement in the film, a logo at the end, and like 5 photos. So that was kind of like that one. Then we would just scale it up from there. And that's like huge, because you want to be, again, it's all about just like organizing and making it easy for people, especially these like I have, my partner works in-house at a brand, and like I just see how stressed he is all the time. And like working in-house, like you just like, you don't want to be adding to any of these people's plates in like an unnecessary way. Like you have to think about like who you're talking to. Like it's not all about you. It's about them. And like, how can you make their life easy? And like, how can you make them like really want to work with you? And that's honestly like, I think more than half the battle is just like, don't make it a lot of extra work for them.
I think that's brilliant. And that's so true. That's so true. It's like, who are you talking to? Research them. What do they care about? Talk to their needs. And I like what you said of like, don't make extra work for them. Like they just kind of want to sign off. Like I've talked to some other people where it's like, oh, like, are they going to wonder like how I spent the $5,000? Are they going to want like, are they going to want like receipts for like my in and out, or, you know, whatever. And it's like, no, actually they just want like a price tag, and they want like a list of deliverables that they get very clearly spelled out. And they just like need to vibe check you and make sure that like you are a good representative of their brand. And then that's all that matters. They don't care about actually like exactly how you spend the money. Sometimes like some, nonprofits, certain relationships might require that. But I think a lot of times like in the marketing branding space, they just want to make sure the creative's good, that you are good, the story's good, and that like they can afford it and they get something out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Love it. What other resources do you feel like people are sleeping on? Is there any like app or I don't know, like anything like platform, app, like mantra, anything that you feel like you as a documentary filmmaker has like helped you in your career get to this point?
Mm-hmm. App wise, I think if you are a woman or POC, Free the Work is a really great platform. I think there's a lot of platforms out there for like database / work job boards, etc., that maybe aren't as valuable and like don't really work. But I've been on Free the Work for like 2 or 3 years now, and I have gotten jobs from it. And I think it's jobs that like, or like just like make connections with production companies that like I wouldn't have otherwise. Like I think this outdoor sports world is like very niche, and sometimes you get stuck in it. And I think that's one of the platforms that has helped me kind of spread my like branches out a little bit. Pinterest is like my go-to, like when I need inspiration and I'm just like feeling very creatively dead. I'm just going to go like look at pretty things on Pinterest, and it helps. And then like I think one of the things that's really helped, especially like moving out to LA from like a small town and just like kind of doing it all myself. Like I didn't go to film school. And I kind of moved out here and was like I like knew what to expect, that it was like LA, like the film industry is like crazy. But like I remember getting here and I was like, I don't really want to do this. Like just like the big sets and like all the like, I don't know, just like these like 40-person sets with like these clients, and it's just like a lot. And I kind of had like a moment where I was like, this is like not really like what I want to do. And I almost kind of like, I don't know, I didn't almost like give up, but like I definitely had a moment where I was like really just like confused about what direction I wanted to go in, because it felt to me like everyone was telling me, if you want to be a DP or director, like you're going to have to climb the ladder for like 15 years and like blah, 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 blah. And I just like don't think that's true. And if you just like start making stuff and like shoot the stuff you want to shoot, like I really think that like a lot of times, maybe after like a few, I think PAing and like kind of the more like climb the ladder side of film, if you want to do stuff like in sports doc, like kind of this more alt lane of filmmaking, just like start doing it with whatever camera you have, whether it's like your phone or like, I think nowadays even like brands like want phone content. Like phone cameras are so good. Like you don't have to have like anything crazy. I think just like starting to make stuff and tell stories and like build your portfolio as what you actually want to do, and then just keep elevating that portfolio to be able to land those like bigger projects has really worked for me, and it's made it a much more like enjoyable process than I think if I had gone the like first AC, second AC, like that kind of path. Because I remember like seeing that when I first got here and like getting all this advice from these like big time DPs of like how they came up, and it just like honestly didn't interest me. And I was really like, this is like what it is. Like there's no way. And then I kind of went the more like intro, like started out doing like a lot of digital content for like these kind of more sports media places, and I was able to elevate in a different kind of like climb a different ladder in a different way that was a lot more in line with what I wanted to do. So I don't know, build your own path. Don't let anyone tell you like that there's like one way, because there's not.
Totally amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, this was so fun.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. I hope you found this useful. If you did, give us a rating. This will really help us grow our audience and better serve you. Talk soon.